Tonight, Delta surges across Melbourne. New warnings on the spread inside supermarket, with Victoria's outbreak tracking faster than Sydney's deadly path. Plus, a vaccine approved for teenagers as Victoria races to hit freedom targets. The Melbourne school forcing all staff to get the jab as plans to get students back in class ramp up. Police speak with Nadia Bartel over her white powder snorting scandal. And the Premiership Cup unveiled in the West as the Bulldogs and Lions face off. Special live access inside the Gabba.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor.
Good evening. Victoria's Delta surge is showing no sign of slowing, with the Chief Health Officer conceding we're on track to follow Sydney's deadly path. Brett Sutton is also issuing a fresh warning on supermarket shopping after today's 190 new cases. But a vaccine has just been approved for teenagers on the second biggest day in the state's rollout.
It's one of our only reasons to leave home, but it's also a danger zone for contracting COVID. The Chief Health Officer issuing a warning today about supermarkets, using the fleeting spread at an Epping checkout as an example.
We've had CCTV that's just shown transmission between people going through the same checkout within a couple of minutes. It was almost certainly airborne transmission. There's no indication that surfaces would have been the contamination there. People were wearing masks, but it still happens. And you know, we've all seen masks not worn properly. A mask on a chin does bugger all.
He says households should send just one person a maximum of once a day.
If you can click and collect for your shopping, please do so. Go less frequently.
I used to go shopping at 10 o'clock at night before there was a curfew, but the curfew kind of crushes all the people together.
I try to watch how far back I stand from people.
Another 190 cases were announced today. Active cases now over 1,300, our highest in 51 weeks. 72% are under 40. Worst hit by today's new cases, again, the city of Hume, more than doubling Moreland and Wyndham. The results came from almost 50,000 tests yesterday, bolstered by 3 new testing sites at Brunswick Town Hall, the Harry Atkins Centre in Coburg and Craigieburn Central. But our small drop in case numbers compared to the day before shouldn't be cause for celebration.
One day is not a trend. The trend over 7-day periods has been incrementally increasing. I expect that to happen until we can get much higher vaccination coverage.
It's almost 8 times worse in New South Wales. More than 1,500 new cases announced there today, and 4 more died. None of them were vaccinated.
So a lot of the spread that has actually occurred has been through people leaving Sydney illegally, and that's been a huge issue for us.
And we could be about to repeat their trajectory.
There's every possibility that we're following a slow and steady increase in the way that New South Wales has. We've got the option of being 1 week behind Sydney or 6 weeks behind Sydney. That does depend on doing the right thing. It does depend on the vaccination coverage.
And that coverage is growing. In state vaccination centres yesterday, our second biggest day on record. But it wasn't a big day for protesters. Police patrolled city landmarks waiting for a promoted demonstration, but only a few turned up.
Paul Dowsley, Regional Victoria, is on track to come out of lockdown next week.
An announcement still probably a few days away, Mike, but what we did learn today is that the Ring of Steel will not be back. Instead, there'll be an increased police presence on our roads just to make sure that Melburnians are not trying to escape the lockdown by sneaking out of town. A lot of that will come down to number plate recognition technology. Authorities will also again be asking businesses to check the IDs of their customers to make sure they're not from Melbourne. But regardless of these changes that are coming for regional Victoria, Mike, Shepparton will not be part of them until their outbreak is over.
Paul, thank you. Health authorities are monitoring an explosion of cases at a Box Hill construction site. Tracy Macbeth has tonight's developments, and Tracy, plans to ease restrictions on building sites could be in jeopardy.
Mike, the outbreak linked to this Box Hill construction site has soared to 58 cases. It's more than doubled in the past 24 hours, sparking questions about whether COVID-safe practices at work should be boosted, particularly in the building industry.
Tools are down, but case numbers have soared at the Panorama construction site.
38 new cases emerged today, bringing the cluster to 58. A COVID-positive person attended the Box Hill worksite and nearby office every day for 9 days. Both venues are Tier 1 exposure sites. 158 primary close contacts are in isolation.
Construction sites are not immune to transmission, and wherever people come together in relatively large numbers, the potential for accelerated transmission is there.
Health authorities are pleading with essential workers to be on guard. That means wearing masks inside and outside, socially distancing, checking in and getting tested for the mildest of symptoms. Construction was due to increase from 25 to 50% on September 23rd.
The caveat for construction opening up is absolutely the high vaccination coverage. We want that. That'll be a genuine risk mitigation.
Across the state, there are close to 1,000 exposure sites. Casa Sweets in Coolaroo, the Food Works in Roxburgh Park and the Woolworths in Nidri joining the growing number of Tier 1 venues.
It's a bit freaky because it's so close to us, and I'm a healthcare worker as well.
As long as you do your QR code on the way in, well, that's all we can do. I'm fully vaccinated, so, what else can I do?
Tracy Macbeth, 7 News.
More pop-up vaccine hubs are being taken to the suburbs hardest hit in this latest outbreak. And in preparation to get schools reopened, one elite Melbourne college is mandating vaccination for all staff.
A Hindu temple is transformed into a COVID-19 vaccination hub.
We hope to reach out to more people in Indian community to spread the positivity that the vaccination brings to the country.
Popping up in Mill Park for just 4 days, the new hub is stocked with both Pfizer and AstraZeneca, administering 200 jabs yesterday and 200 today. It's part of a targeted approach by health officials to bring vaccinations to Victorians in their local communities and their native language.
These programs are proving to be incredibly successful with several multicultural communities.
As of today, 59.7% of Victorians over 16 have had their first dose. We're due to hit 60% tomorrow, but it will be another 2 weeks until we hit our first target of 70% vaccinated. Some organisations are setting their own targets. Xavier College is insisting all staff are vaccinated by the start of term 4.
For us, it was a thoughtful decision, but an important decision, and happy to make a courageous call where we need to.
The school desperate to see its boys and teachers return to the classroom.
I don't think teachers need encouragement. They understand the risk to them, and we understand what it means for them to be vaccinated to protect other teachers, to protect the kids.
Victorians who are double jabbed could enjoy a number of freedoms, like access to outdoor sporting and music events, pubs and restaurants within weeks.
It's discrimination of a sort, but in my view, it should be lawful because I just don't think anyone suffers who shouldn't suffer.
The state government wants to make it easier for business owners to identify vaccinated Victorians by integrating our COVID vaccination certificate with the Service Victoria app. Those who've been jabbed would display a green tick when checking into a venue, offering businesses the chance to refuse service if they wish. It's already being done overseas in countries like Canada.
And that is actually encouraging a lot of people who were hesitant to go out and get vaccinated. So I think that that's something similar we're going to have to do here.
A case of if you can't beat them, join them. Jodie Lee, 7 News.
ICU bed capacity in Melbourne hospitals is being scaled up to cope with the growing outbreak. Cameron Bowe has the details, and Cam, this has been months in the making.
Mike, the number of COVID-related cases in our hospitals continues to grow. There are now 76 COVID patients. 23 of those are in ICU, with 14 people relying on ventilators. 20 patients are in the new pandemic ward at the Northern Hospital, which opened yesterday. And there are now, at last count, more than 400 ICU beds still available in Victoria.
Look, I think there's a huge amount of preparedness work that's been done, and we bring online ICU beds as required, and we're planning on the basis of what the projections are.
But staffing numbers remain a bigger issue than the number of available beds. Tonight there are close to 800 hospital staff that are on furlough, including 466 here at the Royal Melbourne, Mike.
Pam, thank you. Financial support for small and medium-sized Victorian businesses is being extended for 4 weeks. The joint federal-state package now has an extra $2.34 billion.
That will provide support for 175,000 businesses that are affected by the lockdown extension.
When you look at the hardship fund, there are still many businesses coming to the opposition and others saying we can't get an answer out of the government.
The support now runs until late this month, when we're expected to reach the 70% target of first vaccine doses. The Moderna COVID vaccine has just been declared safe for Australian children aged 12 to 17. But the decision is at odds with advice from British experts who are now warning against vaccinating healthy teenagers.
Across the US, Canada and Europe, millions of children are already rolling up their sleeves, but not in the UK.
There are significant uncertainties around the safety of the 2 mRNA vaccines.
Overnight, Britain's vaccine advisory body warned against giving Pfizer and Moderna to healthy children aged 12 to 15, concerned about a rare side effect which causes heart inflammation.
But there are uncertainties about the long-term implications of that condition.
A view not shared by Australian experts.
The children who get it almost always get better within a week or two.
Overnight, the TGA gave provisional approval for the use of Moderna in children as young as 12. Pfizer was approved for 12 to 15-year-olds in July.
When you look at the overall benefits versus the risks, the benefits significantly exceed.
But the advice out of the UK has rattled parents.
Yeah, I guess that's something that I'd have to go and discuss with my doctor.
We also need to be very careful of what we're deciding on for our children.
People should have confidence that at every step we have taken the time of going through proper assessment approval processes.
The British recommendation was based purely on medical grounds and didn't factor in the social impacts on schools and on families. That will be up to Boris Johnson's government and his health officers to weigh up.
So we may hear a different decision coming from the UK in the coming week.
Rob Scott, 7 News.
Southeast Queensland is edging closer to another lockdown, with a busy Brisbane shopping complex at the centre of a potential outbreak. A Delta-positive truck driver has infected a 4-year-old girl, forcing more than 100 families into 14 days home quarantine.
I am very concerned. This is a really high-risk period for us.
The truck driver has a high viral load and spent time inside a nail salon while infected. Prominent Melbourne businesswoman Nadia Bartel is cooperating with police after vision emerged of her snorting a white powder. The 36-year-old is expected to be fined for breaching lockdown rules. Ms Bartel has gained 4,000 new followers on her Instagram account since the scandal emerged. A frantic search is underway for a little boy missing for more than 24 hours. 3-year-old Anthony Alfalak, known as AJ, disappeared on a remote Hunter Valley property yesterday. He has autism and can't communicate verbally. There are growing fears he may have been abducted. More than 100 police and SES volunteers are involved in the large-scale search. New Zealand's Prime Minister is vowing to pass tougher terrorism laws as new details emerge about an extremist who wounded 7 people in a supermarket attack. The 32-year-old Sri Lankan national was on every agency's radar, even discussed with Jacinda Ardern after he was arrested trying to travel to Syria. But he was released from jail in July. Covert police following him reacted within 60 seconds of hearing screams.
Agencies used every tool available to them to protect innocent people from this individual. Every legal avenue was tried. 3
victims remain in a critical condition in hospital. The FBI has been ordered to review and release classified documents on the September 11 attack, just 1 week out from the 20th anniversary of the atrocity. Survivors and families told US President Joe Biden he wasn't welcome at any upcoming memorial events unless he upheld his pledge to release the files. Some of them believe they could show a connection between Saudi Arabian leaders and the attack. The AFL is reviewing why a young Giants star was forced to wait more than an hour for urgent medical care. The bungle has been blamed on strict COVID rules being enforced by Western Australian health authorities.
That one spray in September, Perth's Optus Stadium deep cleaned by officials in full PPE after Geelong's semi-final win over the Giants. Even the goalposts got extra attention in Australia's most cautious COVID state. GWS forward Zach Sproul dislocated his shoulder in the last quarter. The 23-year-old forced to stay at the ground for an hour instead of heading to hospital. It's understood WA officials were reluctant for Sproul to leave the Giants' biosecure bubble. The AFL will review the incident on Monday, but players and staff do have permission to leave quarantine if they need medical care in Perth. The Cats finished their quarantine period on Friday, the day of their preliminary final against Melbourne. Two-time Premiership Eagle Glenn Jakovic unveiled as this year's Premiership Cup ambassador.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let's do it proud and let's have a cracking game. We have the responsibility to make sure that we uphold the values of what the MCG is all about.
Jakovic's brother Alan was a cult figure at the Demons in the early 90s, and the champion defender's heart beats true this final series.
I'd have to say I've got a soft spot. I hope Melbourne get in there, and I think I'll be singing the grand old flag if they get up and win.
Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
And Jackie Felgate, the footy doesn't stop. A massive night ahead for the Bulldogs.
Hello, Mike. Yes, it's win or go home in a semi-final clash against the Lions. Ben Davis is inside the Gabba for us tonight. Hello, Ben. The Dogs will be out for revenge.
Jackie, Dogs fans and players do not need reminding. It was the Lions who knocked them out of the top four, leaving them living on a knife's edge heading into this final series. Over the last 24 hours, they've been living in quarantine here. They were allowed a captain's run at the Gabba and allowed to have lunch together in the team room. But other than that, they have been confined to barracks. But they are here now, out of the kennel and ready to unleash. And they'll have to bring all the form that they showed against Essendon last weekend to win here, because it's something they've only been able to do once in the last 12 seasons. Luke Hodge will be back a little later in sport to dissect the midfield battle, which will be compelling viewing along with the other matchups. It's going to be a big night here at the Gabba.
It certainly is. Thank you, Ben. Also coming up in sport, a rare show of frustration for Naomi Osaka in a shock loss at the US Open. And the Storm flying into the finals after securing the minor premiership. And Mike, yes, I will be chatting to Luke Hodge a little later. It'll be great.
Can't wait to hear from Hodgie. Thanks, Jack. Up next, the bombshell leaked documents that reveal potentially devastating safety problems on Melbourne train lines. Plus, a teenager stuck in Melbourne as her family fights a new border battle. Our police crack the biggest heroin bust in almost 20 years. Heartache for music superstar Keith Urban. And later, the hurdles Victorian schools need to clear to get kids back in class. And new alcohol advice for mums. Leaked documents have revealed there are major safety concerns over the state government's SkyRail project. But the regional rail provider has poured cold water on the claims as a new project ramps up.
These concrete troughs already make up 14 kilometres of elevated rail on the Frankston, Mernda and Werribee lines. But there are now claims they don't meet critical safety standards.
We can't take the slightest risk on this. It's just simply totally unacceptable.
Internal documents have revealed some V-Line engineers fear the bridges could collapse in the event a heavier freight train was derailed. But the Level Crossing Removal Authority insists each structure is built to code for both metropolitan and regional services.
We have no concerns with the safety of any of the bridge structures that we've built as part of the Level Crossing Removal project.
V-Line's CEO agrees.
V-Line has no safety concerns about the U-troughs which are currently in place across the metropolitan network.
The concerns have come to light during the design phase of the Mount Derrimut Road Level Crossing Removal project. It's the first time an elevated rail bridge will be built on the V-Line network.
It's a new process for them, so we're working through any concerns they have.
Safety is the number one priority, and we're working really closely to make sure the designs meet all the safety standards that are required.
Estelle Greeping, 7 News.
There's been a breakthrough arrest over the country's biggest heroin bust in almost 2 decades. 350 kilograms of the drug was flown in from Malaysia, hidden in baking equipment.
Officers identified anomalies with inside those pieces of machinery, $156 million, which was equate to about $1.1 million street deals.
The 29-year-old father accused of importing the drugs is facing life in prison. Keith Urban's longtime tour production manager has died after falling off a stage in Ohio. Randy Baha Fletcher died in hospital from critical injuries. The 72-year-old had been working with the Australian star since 2011 after a long career with some of the greats of country music. Keith Urban paid tribute to his friend, saying, "I loved him, we all loved him, and I'm grateful he chose us as his road family for 10 years. A 15-year-old Queenslander stuck in Melbourne is now at the centre of a COVID border battle. She's one of thousands stranded from their families, forced to reapply just to enter their home state.
While one family celebrates their son's homecoming, 15-year-old Brisbane student Shade is stuck 1,800 kilometres from her mum after a trip to see her dad.
Hi, how are you? I'm good.
That's good. I'm really missing you.
She flew down to Victoria on July 13th and it was meant to be for 6 days.
Almost 2 months later, she's still not home. When Queensland closed its borders to Victoria on July 17, Shade missed the last plane out.
We've been trying to get her back, but unfortunately that's not happened yet.
Jamie Ivans escalated her daughter's application with Queensland Health for an exemption 11 days ago.
When I spoke with them again yesterday, all they offered was that they bump it again for another priority assessment.
Despite the Health Minister's promise to bring children home.
I'm giving that guarantee right now. We are going through all of the applications to identify these children.
Dev Gills and his family of 7 spent 4 years planning their move to Brisbane, now unable to afford hotel quarantine.
Like really the timing that is not right for us at the moment.
More stranded Queenslanders will be able to come home from Monday when the cap on hotel quarantine increases, but existing applications for border passes are being cancelled and returning residents will have to start the process again from scratch. Anna McGraw, 7 News.
And emotional Dylan Alcott has revealed he won't compete at the Paris Paralympics in 2024. Alcott today defended his singles title to finish as the most successful wheelchair tennis player in history.
Exhausted and exhilarated, Dylan Alcott, king of the court again.
He's done it.
How bloody good is this? Like, I'm the luckiest guy in the world right now.
Having defended his title, respect for Dutch rival Sam Schroeder. A patriot but also a rebel, Alcott admits elite competition saved his life.
I'm so thankful and grateful that it came into my life and that I can perform on the big stage.
Retired now as a Paralympian, one Aussie wish remains.
I'm going to come home and drink 10,000 beers with every single one of you when I'm allowed to, I'm telling you.
Having defended his kayak gold from Rio, the Va'a canoe made it a three-peat for Curtis McGrath.
McGrath, he makes it 3 from 3 at the Paralympics.
At the National Stadium, Jimmy Turner's bid for double gold ended in high drama. Balked on the blocks by his Malaysian opponent, Turner's slow start in the 100 blew any chance of another victory.
I'm pretty shattered, to be honest. Really wanted the gold. Too bad I'll be taking home silver. Feel like I've let you all down.
Last night, tragedy partnered triumph. Our men's medley relay team winning silver only 3 days after the death of Tim Diskin's mum, Jenny.
I couldn't be in a better spot for the heartbreak I've had over the last 72 hours.
And our most decorated female athlete, Ellie Cole, found out by surprise today she'll be our flag bearer for the closing ceremony. In Tokyo, Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
The clock's ticking to get Melbourne students back in schools. Next, the plan to COVID-proof our classrooms in time for Term 4. Plus, the deep dig that's set to bring Melbourne traffic to a standstill. Rocket disaster just 2 minutes after liftoff. And a special report into crucial alcohol advice for women. Plans to get students back in schools are ramping up with rapid testing and ventilation on the agenda. But Victoria's Chief Health Officer warns there are still several hurdles to overcome before classes are declared COVID safe.
In the US, HEPA filters are being used to improve airflow in schools. The same purifiers set to be used in Victorian classrooms.
They'll go in areas where the ventilation is poorest, where the risk of transmission is therefore highest.
Better ventilation, one of the keys in getting kids back to school.
We need to do something
what's possible now, and a lot is possible now. In many situations, it's as simple as opening windows and doors.
Other potential requirements, mask wearing and regular rapid tests.
We need to get that rapid testing in place, and Daniel Andrews needs to get over his resistance.
The Chief Health Officer says the hurdles are TGA rules and the need for user-friendly swabs for children.
If they're happy to line up for us, I'm very happy for them to be used.
Victorian children have now lost 29 weeks of face-to-face classroom time, almost double the figure in New South Wales. The nation's Children's Commissioner now calling for a long-term recovery plan, specifically for young Australians.
These extended lockdowns have been going on and on and on. We need to act now.
Estelle Greeping, 7 News.
Construction on a new city landmark is about to get a lot more noticeable. From next week, 2 giant cranes will rise over the Town Hall Station worksite. They're going up to remove the acoustic shed that shielded the CBD from the noise and dust of 24-hour tunnelling work below. There'll be footpath and traffic closures at various times until the shed removal by the middle of next year. When it's finished in 2025, the Town Hall Station will be 260 metres long and 5 stories deep. The Taliban's logged in a vicious battle to claim the final piece of Afghanistan territory not under its control. Heavy firefight north of Kabul has already claimed hundreds of lives.
The resistance is not going to surrender, it's not going to bow to terrorism, and it's going to continue.
If the Taliban does take the region, it would give them complete control, something they didn't achieve during their last rule from 1996. This test flight was looking good until around 2.5 minutes in when the unmanned rocket exploded off the coast of California. It was the first test for company Firefly Aerospace, which aims to use its Alpha rocket to launch small satellites. The company says it's gathered plenty of valuable data from the mission. The true impact of Hurricane Ida is becoming clearer tonight, with horror stories of trapped residents and images of vulnerable Americans left in squalor. The US president has toured the damage zone in Louisiana, one of 8 states left battered by the monster storm.
The remnants of Hurricane Ida bursting through this New Jersey basement, gone in seconds. Its owner escaping, but now it's feared at least 11 others drowned in their homes, trapped by rising floodwaters.
Folks, I know you're hurting. I know you're hurting.
Offering hugs and hope, Joe Biden today on the ground in Louisiana, touring near where the Category 4 monster began its path of destruction. The president pledged financial lifelines for this exhausted community.
Just don't want to cry anymore. I'm tired.
800,000 residents here still without power, fresh water and fuel now critically low.
Hurricane Ida is another reminder that we need to be prepared for the next hurricane. And superstorms are going to come, and they're going to come more frequently and more ferociously.
Among those hit hardest, these 800 nursing home residents, now sleeping on a warehouse floor. It's an image sparking outrage in the battered state.
I'm just furious that nobody said anything. Give us an update. I had to find out on TV.
4 died in the squalid conditions.
They were on mattresses on floors, and they had a couple of days of no air condition.
The clean-up across the country underway. Ida gone, but not soon forgotten. In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
New research has revealed 30% of expectant mothers are still drinking alcohol during pregnancy. That's despite strong advice about the risks of damaging the baby's brain.
Family is everything to Zoe and her husband, NRL star Benji Marshall.
Becoming a mum of 2 is wild. Becoming a mum of 2 in a pandemic is wilder.
Little Eva arrived in June this year, a baby sister for 3-year-old Fox. The pair was determined to give their kids the best start in life by abstaining from alcohol to avoid the dangerous condition of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, or FASD for short.
If I'm having to do it, he's happy to cop it as well, because that does make everything a lot easier. The children and their health is at the forefront of everything.
It is a devastating condition that is permanent and irreversible, and yet it's 100% preventable.
30% of women still drink alcohol during pregnancy. 48% while breastfeeding, risking the condition that can affect the development of a baby's brain.
We're actually seeing more pregnant women abstaining from alcohol, which is a really important thing, but we won't be satisfied until that number reaches 100%.
It's about saying, hey, we've got this information. This is actually going to impact your child. Let's talk about it.
A conversation the Marshals hope they can spark across the country. Michelle Bishop, 7 News.
Up next, a bit of fight to protect the sacrifice made by Australian diggers, and why the French president has been urged to intervene, plus how lockdown shopping trends are driving down the price of strawberries. And footy's biggest fan's 61-year grand final streak in jeopardy. Desperate farmers are pleading for Victorian shoppers to buy more strawberries to save their livelihoods. Winter berry prices have plunged as low as $1 a punnet. It follows the needle sabotage and 2 years of poor rain for winter berry farmers.
Get behind the farmers. They put in a massive effort to get the crop in, and, we just need people to pick them up and take them home.
Farmers blame the slump on restaurant closures and more shoppers ordering food online instead of seeing the fresh fruit on shelves. The French president is being urged to intervene in a dispute involving Australia's War Memorial on the Western Front. Locals are fighting plans to build a wind farm nearby, which they say would disrespect the sacrifice of Aussie diggers who died liberating their villages.
At Villers-Bretonneux, the focal point for Anzac Day commemorations in Europe, where the sacrifice of Australia's young diggers is commemorated, there is a new battle.
It's a moral issue. It's a lack of respect for the Australian people and for all the soldiers who died here in Picardy.
Plans for a wind farm, up to 14 turbines, 4 kilometres from the memorial, but visible from the tower overlooking the battlefields where Australians liberated Villers-Bretonneux in 1918.
The wind farm would have a very negative impact on the memory of the Australians.
A French court recently ruled construction could proceed, the company telling 7 News the wind farm will not affect the memorials or the importance of remembrance in the Somme. People here aren't convinced, today meeting local politicians from all levels of government.
All the population don't want this project.
In its own submission against the project, the Australian government said it feared the turbines would dash the chances of this site gaining World Heritage status. The only hope now, intervention by the French president.
Everything is possible. We need to keep intact the memory of all the soldiers who died here for the liberty of the French people.
Including 53,000 Australians. In Villers-Bretonneux, France, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
Tough COVID restrictions in Western Australia will end footy's longest grand final attendance streak. Australia's biggest fan, Gary Marchant, has been to 63 grand finals in a row and says missing out this year is gut-wrenching.
Such a devout demon, Gary Marchant even tears up watching replays. Yes! But his main obsession, grand finals.
How many grand finals have you been to in a row?
63 if you include the 2 draws.
This year he's tried everything to get into Western Australia for the grand final, but can't. His streak will end.
So it is disappointing, yeah. It's a bit gut-wrenching for me.
As a 7-year-old, he saw Barassi's Melbourne 1960 triumph. Then every grand final since, iconic moments right in front of him. The golden eras, the end of eras, the greatest teams of all time. So desperate to see last year's in Brisbane, he did 2 weeks quarantine in the Northern Territory.
I wouldn't feel comfortable not being there. I'd feel I should be there.
His favourite grand final, the Demons' last premiership in 1964, a cliffhanger.
Taken by Neil Compton. Compton kicks in towards goal for Melbourne.
So excited, he missed the celebrations.
I went down. I fainted. As an 11-year-old, I was under the seats. So that was my memory of the 64 grand final.
And watching this year's grand final from afar at home, if Melbourne makes it, he'll be just as emotional.
A lot of tears in lounge rooms. Yeah. It's special.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Let him in.
Oh, Gary.
Yeah, what a beautiful story.
Jackie Felgate returns with Sport and Jack. The Bulldogs are out to tame the Lions tonight.
They certainly are, Mike. They're hoping it will kickstart their push for the premiership. We're live to the Gabba next with inside access as Luke Hodge gives his thoughts on the huge clash. The Cats ready to face their demons while a Star eyes a shock finals return. The menace pitch invader causing trouble all over England. And the upsets keep coming as some big names crash out of the US Open. Welcome back. We're just over half an hour away from tonight's cutthroat semi-final clash at the Gabba. The Bulldogs have had an interrupted day, forced to stay in their rooms and only allowed out to briefly stretch their legs. Caleb Daniel has been cleared to play despite an issue with his leg, with the team looking to carry on the momentum from last week's win over the Bombers.
Obviously the frustration, disappointment of missing that top 4 spot was quickly dealt with. I think it was almost the game we had to find and rediscover a bit of our form and the style and the way that we play again. So it was good. I think the boys got back that feeling of what our best looks like and feels like, and hopefully can replicate it tonight.
And Luke Hodge joins me now from the Gabba. Good evening, Hodgie. Do you think the tight restrictions on the Dogs today will affect them tonight?
Yeah, g'day, Jack. Look, it's been a different build-up for them. From when they were allowed into Queensland yesterday, they were under hotel lockdown. They weren't allowed out until today. They got permission to come to the Gabba for some fresh air, to stretch the legs, and then straight back into lockdown. So, look, it was a weird build-up for them, but you also got to think that the Lions also have been in a 48-hour lockdown at home and have only been able to leave to come into training. So, look, I think it's even on both teams, but it should be a good battle.
The Bulldogs found their spark last week. Will that be enough to get the job done tonight?
They did find their spark. As soon as that rain hit down at Launceston, it brought Libber out, the good old contested hunting football that Libber's known for. He was at his best last week. So I'm tipping that's what Bevo would have been shown, because I reckon that's the best way that they're going to beat the Lions tonight, if Libber's up and firing.
And where do you think their goals will come from? They've struggled to find that consistency without Josh Bruce.
Yeah, you're right. He was unreal for him this year until he hurt his knee. But I think if you look at Waitman, who kicked a few last week, you got Hannon, you got Shackey, you got Norton as well. So look, they are missing Bruce, but they do still have a lot of players down there that can kick goals.
It's always great to get your thoughts, Hodgie. Looking forward to the coverage tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
He's been labelled delusional by one expert, but Geelong's Tom Stewart believes a miracle grand final comeback is still possible. It's season over, though, for Brandon Parfitt as the Cats prepare for their 12th preliminary final in 18 years.
His critics were waiting to pounce, but for the 7th time in 11 seasons, Chris Scott has led the Cats into a preliminary final.
I'm proud to be a part of this club. Couldn't get a better bunch of players to work with. It's a joy to coach them.
Scott's doubters not adding any extra drive this September.
It's not the way we work. I don't really believe in that extrinsic motivation anyway.
A 5-goal haul to Tom Hawkins the difference as the Giants mounted a final term fight back.
A supreme performance from Tom Hawkins.
Joel Selwood overtaking Corey Enright as the Cats game's record holder as Geelong turns its attention to a match-up against Melbourne for a spot in the grand final. They'll have overwhelming finals experience on their side. The Cats have played almost 4 times the total finals compared to the Demons. Tom Stewart will run for the first time tomorrow, just 20 days since foot surgery.
Advice from surgeons, physiotherapists was that I could get back to the grand final if everything goes well for us.
Although one leading medical expert has described his chances of a miracle return as delusional.
It's ahead of schedule, which I find humorous when the guy's walking upstairs and that's ahead of schedule.
The Giants gallant without the suspended Toby Green, who apologised to his teammates during the week.
He was in front of the group and clearly remorseful throughout the week, and it was an emotional, 10 or 15 minutes.
Shane Munford likely to retire in the coming weeks. Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
Melbourne Storm heads into next week's finals as minor premiers. Ryan Pappenhausen was back to his lightning-quick best with 3 tries in their 28-16 win over the Sharks.
By Sunday, that's all forgotten, and we're into another season, and which is probably a little bit more important.
It's Storm's fourth minor premiership in 6 years. Cox Plate favourite Zaki has started his spring campaign in blistering form with a runaway win in the Tramway Stakes over 1,400 metres at Randwick.
He is an absolute weapon, this horse, and I'm telling you, he is anywhere near his peak.
At Moonee Valley, Damien Oliver rode Superstorm home to victory along the rail in a photo finish to the Feehan Stakes, earning a ticket straight into the Cox Plate. Defending US Open champion Naomi Osaka says she's going to take a break from playing tennis. The world number 3 showed her frustration as she was knocked out in the Aussie Alexi Popyrin had the Flushing Meadows crowd on their feet with some inspiring tennis, but fell just short, losing to Dan Evans in a 5th set tiebreak. For the third straight test, English cricket's serial pest Java has invaded the pitch against India.
And it was quite amusing the first time he did it, but I'm afraid it's rather lost its humour now.
The pitch invader ran into England batsman Johnny Bairstow before being escorted off and arrested by police. India bowled England out for 290 and head into day 3 of the 4th test, 56 runs behind. And exciting times in Tokyo with the Paralympic closing ceremony tomorrow night. 17-time medalist Ali Cole has been named Australia's flag bearer for the ceremony.
To be able to say my final farewell to our Paralympic team by representing them in what I consider to be one of the highest honours bestowed upon an athlete, it really is an honour.
You can watch the closing ceremony on 7 Mate from 8:30. Mike, you can watch the footy tonight. It's going to be absolutely sensational. I don't like to say this, but I think the Lions. What do you think?
Oh, I want the Bulldogs. I want a Victorian grand final. We deserve that.
A Geelong Bulldogs grand final. Sounds nice.
Maybe Melbourne. We'll talk about it. Thanks, Jack. Melina Saris is next with the forecast. And Mel, when will we be able to head outside?
Well, Mike, showers are expected early tomorrow morning, so you should be right for a walk outside any time after that. I'll have all of those details right after the break.
Know the headlines as they break. Know the stories as they happen. With 7news.com.au, know the news now.
After a very wet night, it stayed dry for most of today. The city only made it to 14 degrees. It is 11 out there now, and we recorded 38 millimetres in the 24 hours to 9 a.m. The south and the northeast of the state had the heaviest falls. Mount Hotham had 60 millimetres, 43 for Wangaratta, 43 at Viewbank as well, and 37 for Frankston. Rain continued about the east with showers throughout the rest of the state. There are minor flood warnings in place for a number of rivers, including the Kiewa and the Yarra. This low pressure system is helping direct a southerly stream over the state. This low will move east on Sunday as a ridge of high pressure builds over Victoria. So rain will continue in Gippsland tomorrow, easing to showers later in the day. We'll see isolated showers north of the Divide, scattered showers elsewhere. It'll be cool and mostly cloudy across the south, partly cloudy up north with moderate southwesterly winds. Showers are most likely early tomorrow morning over the suburbs, so late morning and early afternoon are your best times for a walk. It will be cool out there though. We are only in the low to mid-teens. Showers easing in the city from a low of 9. We'll only make it to 14. A possible morning shower on Monday, 16. A possible shower on Tuesday as well. Wednesday, partly cloudy and 21. Thursday, partly cloudy and 23 with a possible shower later on and some more showers at the end of the week, Mike.
OK, Mel, thank you. And that's 7 News. Thanks for your company. Up next, we're live to the Gabba for the big semi-final between the Lions and the Bulldogs. We'll have updates later. For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.